Welcome to the Black to School podcast. With two or more gathered, anything is possible. I'm one of your hosts, Hughes.
And I'm your other host, Kedar, representing that Norfolk State. This podcast is to highlight successful stories of students that are currently at an HBCU, alumni of an HBCU, or affiliated with an HBCU. So make sure you tune in weekly.
Welcome to the Black to School podcast. With two or more gathered, anything is possible. I'm your boy, Hughes.
What's up? I'm Kedar, and we're just excited to be here. Another episode. We just appreciate y'all coming back, showing us love, tuning in, stopping by. Been a great week. Hughes, what's been going on with you this week?
Man, just wrapping up the school year. It's been a long school year, but just wrapping it up, getting prepared for the summer. Hopefully I can see it. It's coming, it's close. So I'm just prepared, to have a relaxing time, because it's been a stressful time for all educators. So just ready to just get back to just unwind,
Man, when I say teachers got it, I'm not gonna say gravy, but I wish I couldn't work for 2 months and still get a check. I'm talking about I would be the fattest person. I wouldn't be healthy, but I would literally only be productive 2 hours of my day every day, and then the rest of my days I would just waste it.
Wait, I mean, you wouldn't waste it, man. It's like you always find something to do, whether you go to the beach, whether you're going to the pool or something. So
yeah.
It's always something.
I'm just amazed. I'm just amazed at how, especially if you're not in administration, because you really off now. Like, you really checked out. You ain't got to think about. You don't even have to think about plans. You ain't got to think about none of that.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe like 3 weeks before school start. Now you start thinking, okay, what color am I gonna make my board?
Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so we're going to Hawaii at the end of the month.
Okay.
When I say probably the dumbest idea ever.
Why?
It was good. It was a great idea last year, because that's when we were supposed to go.
Bro, your daughter's going, right?
Bro, it would have been the wife, myself, maybe because we were dropping them off. It would have been the wife and myself.
Okay, so who's gonna be there this time?
COVID happened.
Right.
So we had to postpone the trip.
Right, which everybody does.
So now it's a newborn, a 2-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 24-year-old, the wife, and myself. Bro,
yeah.
We said, you know what, maybe we should rent a car. Bro, the cars are like $700 a day for the type seats we need. It's ridiculous. Hawaii is expensive. It is going to be the most expensive trip we've ever been on as a family, bro. And we done been to Aruba. We done been to the Cayman Islands.
Yeah.
We done been to the LA and stayed on the beach. This is going to be ridiculous, bro.
Yeah, that's what they say. Hawaii, you got to bring them coins, man.
You got to bring more than coins.
especially with your tribe.
Bro. Anyway, man. Hey, look, man, we got a great show for you today.
Yeah.
All right, coming to our show today, all the way from Virginia State, this brother right here, when I say history, I'm talking about can regurgitate it like it's nothing. all about the Black radical movement, all about HBCUs and doing and giving back to the people and recognize the people, man. We so happy to have him today. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for my man, Sharreiff De'Jonette.
Good day, brothers. How y'all doing today? I appreciate the affirmation on legendary. I appreciate it. I'm humbled by it. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. Welcome.
Yeah, appreciate
We're
you
excited
coming.
to have you, bro.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
look, go ahead. No, we start every podcast off with one question.
Okay.
Before you tell us where you went to school, that one question is, what is your greatest accomplishment thus far?
Actually, my greatest accomplishment thus far is that I was able to not only be a first-time, college student in my immediate family, but I was able to shatter the glass ceiling within my family by becoming the first to earn a doctorate in education. And I just earned that in March. So I just defended my dissertation in education in March. So right now that stands as my greatest achievement thus far.
Hey,
congratulations,
that's what's up, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Congratulations,
Congrats
educated
on
Black
that.
man.
Hey, we need more. So where you from?
I'm actually from Williamsburg, Virginia. And I graduated from Bruton High School in 1992.
Okay.
So, and I graduated from Virginia State, which we'll get into in a second, in 1996.
Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah, because that's our next question. Tell them what school you represent.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The best school in all the land, especially in this Commonwealth, is Virginia State University. And I think we already understand that.
Yeah. Hey, every time the Trojans come on, it's an epic show, man.
Absolutely. We love Virginia State. It's in our heart. It's a part of our school culture and creed. It's in our heart. We're loyal sons and daughters, true to ours.
We can feel it. Every time they come on, we can feel it.
Absolutely.
We wanna take it back a little bit. Let's go back to your childhood, how this all started. So take us back to your childhood. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So one is that my parents were actually born and raised in New York. I was born in Queens, New York.
That's right.
And then we moved to Williamsburg, and that's because my mother's mother, my grandmother, is initially from Williamsburg, Virginia.
Okay.
So I have ties to the area, and it's important to highlight that because that's going to get into the reason why I'm doing this particular community service project that I just recently launched in 2019.
Okay.
And so I graduated from York County Public Schools, which is in the Bruton district. York County runs parallel to Newport News along the York River.
Okay.
And so I'm on the upper end of York County, Virginia, and I graduated from Bruton High School in 1992, and I subsequently matriculated into Virginia State. But I didn't always know about Black colleges, and I'll get into that a little bit later in our conversation. But that's just a little rough about my childhood.
So how did you get to Virginia State? What happened in high school that made you choose Virginia State? Did you go right away? Was there somebody in the high school that guided you? Tell us about that process.
So for me, at that particular time, as I stated, my parents are from New York, but they're not college graduates. My mother's sister graduated from New York University after having attended Hunter, and my mother worked at New York, which helped my mother's sister get into New York. So that's a little bit of the lineage in terms of the higher ed piece. But again, my parents didn't know anything about this thing called HBCU, PWI. In fact, HBCU as a moniker is brand new. That didn't emerge until '64. So some of those things weren't being thrown around like that at the time. So my parents didn't have that understanding. And being that I'm Generation X, which means that, I didn't experience Jim Crow. I didn't see colored only, white only signs. You know, my generation is the first to receive all of its rights, if you will, by way of Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act, affirmative action, all that.
Yeah.
And so initially I was going to go to NYU because that's where my aunt went. So I just wanted to go there. That's all I ever heard. But, you know, my parents at the time were like opposed to that because they didn't want me to go to New York. And we didn't understand financial aid and all the things that went along with that. Right at that juncture, a couple of things was occurring. So there's a different world that's in my background, meaning that show is playing at the time, which we all know is about a fictional Black school. But I didn't think that was a real thing. I didn't make that connection because no one sat me down to explain that. So I thought it was just fiction.
Yeah.
And then, of course, most of my friends who were Black in my graduating high school, there might have been maybe 21 of us that were Black out of 100 students. And so most of the Black students were talking, you know, Virginia Tech, James Madison, you know, UVA, in-state schools. So of course, you know, that rubs off on you. And it was actually two things that happened. I had a big brother that I consider a big brother who was attending Virginia State at the time. He was a freshman. This was in '91. And my high school guidance counselor, senior high school guidance counselor, who was a white woman, who I told her that I wanted to be at the time a civil rights attorney. Thurgood Marshall was my, you know, hero. You know, I wanted to go out there and, you know, tackle civil rights and all this. And she told me about Virginia Union. So the only schools that I applied to was Virginia Union and Virginia State. And I got accepted early to Union because they had a program where you go to Union for a little while, transfer to St. John's and Queens, New York Law School. And then Virginia State accepted me late because that year, Virginia State had its largest freshman class that would enroll at that date, which was about 1,200 of us at that time in 1992. And there was no space for me on campus. So I didn't actually arrive to Virginia State until September 19th, 1992, after my situation at Virginia Union fell apart. So to kind of go back, when I arrived on the campus at Virginia Union in August of '92, I immediately went over to the business administration office to, you know, kind of make sure that my aid was straight. And I sat down with the people. My parents were, you know, with me in the office. They went through everything and they told me, well, you're fine for the fall, but you will be short X dollars for the spring. And for whatever reason, they didn't offer me. And to this date, I never received work study ever, even when I was at Virginia State, but somehow my brothers did when they went to college, but that's another story. And so they was like, well, we'll try to find the money for you. And I was like, well, am I going to be able to have it like right now? It was like, well, we don't know. You'll have to wait till the spring. And so my attitude was I wasn't going to incur that kind of stress.
Yeah.
So I said, you know, just go ahead and disenroll me. And they was doing everything, please, you know, Mr. De'Jonette will, you know, do everything possible to try to, you know, make your stay here comfortable at Virginia Union. I said, well, I really want to be here. I was like, but I'm not going to be stressed over trying to find money.
Yeah.
But what's ironic is I didn't do the similar sort of situation with Virginia State necessarily because they told me when I got there that everything was fine, but it wasn't. So when I enrolled at Virginia State, the same issue that I had at Union was the case at Virginia State in '92 because life was very different financially back then for students in the middle '80s up through the early '90s in Black college life. And so when I got to State that spring, I was short. And I was asking, you know, could I, you know, break my housing contract but still stay on campus? Could I reduce my eating package and still stay on campus? And back then, everything was a straight, oh no, you got to get all the lunch plan. If you can't afford it, you're gonna have to pack your stuff up and go home. And so I was kicked off campus, and that is when I had to commute from Williamsburg my second semester freshman year to Virginia State. So I stayed on campus in the fall. I didn't have a regular freshman experience because back then in Black college life, at least even at Norfolk State back then, you had an entire freshman week. We didn't do like 4 days. It was an entire week. And you did your testing and all of that for your classes in terms of remedial math, remedial writing, and remedial reading. And so I didn't have any of that. And so my first experience at State was I came up to take the test late July, August, came right back home, had to wait for them to give me housing, and I got there on the 19th of September. And then I had to
Wow.
come back home for the spring
Well,
and commute.
well, so you go through that challenge freshman year, and normally that's one of our questions is what are the challenges that you go through, but I want to ask, so after freshman year and you finally do get on campus, hopefully, right?
Well, my sophomore year is what really officially starts in my mind my entire Virginia State experience uninterrupted
Right.
from sophomore to senior year.
Okay, so that's what I
Right.
want to get to is, so now you're finally officially on campus. How was that like?
So, I enjoyed everything about Virginia State. I never wanted to come home. So, I had friends of mine who they couldn't wait to, go home on the weekends and not attend football games or not attend, basketball games or what have you. They was always, at home. Not me. I was the one that was like the last one out the dorm, when it was time to leave. Or by the time we finally got fall break, which at Virginia State was like late in my matriculation. So we didn't start doing fall break until maybe like my junior year. We get that little fall break during the midterm period in the fall semester. But even then, I wasn't going anywhere because I just loved all the blackness that was going on, at the
Yeah.
school at the time. And again, to kind of like build upon why that was the case, I came from an environment where it was mostly whites. And I hadn't seen all this, what we say today as Black excellence, but back then was called it Black achievement,
Right.
concentrated in one space and just all this beauty. And so I saw these things called the woo-woos, Essence of Troy. I was like, my father, like, no, I'm not, I'm not. I know I need to see all of this and take all this in, and I don't understand why anybody could possibly not want to see a football game. Now I'm not a sports fanatic, so I'm not one of those type that could run down NBA, NFL, and all that kind of stuff. That's not my lane. I do politics, so
Right.
if it
Right.
ain't about blackness or Africa, I ain't really, you know what I'm saying? I'm not
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
involved. But unless it strikes a chord. So just to real fast, if LeBron James is being attacked on his blackness, now I'm gonna be interested in LeBron James.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Gotcha.
I ain't running down his numbers.
So what was your major?
So my major at Virginia State started out as political science because as I shared, I wanted to be a lawyer. But over time, I was like, I don't think that's my calling. I keep being called, I'm not a spiritual person in that way, religious wise, but I felt like my ministry was education. So I switched it to history, political science. So my
Okay.
major
Nice.
at Virginia State was history of political science because I soak up history like a sponge. So all I got to do is read something one time and I can spit it, right back out, to
Right.
you. So history was the same with politics as well, but in terms of what I want to do long term, it was history.
Gotcha. And was there anybody within a particular department that made you want to switch or made you say, yes, I made the right choice to be a history major?
It wasn't about the people in the department because I wasn't that advanced in my, even though I was told those kind of things, but I didn't really care about that stuff, to be honest with you, because I always felt, well, as the young people say today, I always felt myself. So I always felt like I was going to make the department or whatever it is that I associated myself with, that it was going to be fly once I get there, kind of attitude, so that's how
Right.
Well,
how I
you
am.
talk
But
like a nuke.
exactly. So I didn't understand any other kind of way. I don't have low self-esteem in that regard. I didn't feel like white power was beating me down and things of this nature. I was going to push through regardless. But in high school is where I realized that my strong aptitude was in social studies because even though my instructors were white, but it's the fact that I just soaked it all up, and then to go back to my household because that's what's more important. My anchoring or my ethos in my house is Black. So there is no white iconography in my house. So in other words, no disrespect, but there is no white Jesus in my house. There aren't, integrated materials in my house. It's Malcolm X that's in my house. As long as I can remember, my parents have had a little bookcase that's still in my house to this day of all the books that they read, and all those books are Black. And I used to thumb through them and kind of peruse them. And one of the books that I read was, Malcolm X, the autobiography. It's my parents who sat me and my brothers down. I'm the oldest of two, who sat us down and made us watch everything that was Black and talked to us, about it, based on what it is they could understand. And it's from that foundation that launched me into, where I am today. So all of this goes back to my, parents. I just say that Virginia State, kind of, to use Kwame Brown's rhetoric today, just added some more seasoning to it, if you will. But my parents already gave me the cooking, a long time ago. So that's how I would say that.
Well, who are some of your most influential professors?
Oh, my father. So cause see, I feel like it's the same at Norfolk State, because I've been over there before. But one of the things that we used to say at Virginia State is, you got to be tight. So that's like one of the cultural things, in Black college life, that you got to be tight and you got to do your research. So I prepared, based on the questions you asked. And so and I want to list them because they're everything to me. And so, so again, before I even get into that, I gotta once again shout out, Conrad Dixon, who is like a little brother to me.
Yeah.
I met him, my father, I had to been like in my young 20s then. This is 1998. And
Oh, wow.
shout out to Rondell Brewer, because I was with him at the time.
Okay.
And he was recently crossing Epsilon Alpha at Elizabeth City.
Yeah.
So he and I are together, and we're at, I think it was Virginia Beach, and we saw Conrad. Ronnell knew Conrad already, I didn't. And so Conrad needed a ride home. That was in 98. So I've known Conrad ever since 1998.
Yeah.
And it was he that tagged me into y'all's post.
Yeah.
That's how that connected. So I have to point that out because it's about lineage to me, and it's about celebrating Blackness. So I have to always cite my sources, because that's a big deal in my vocation. I'm citing Black people, and if I can shout out Black men, that's another thing I'm always going to do.
Definitely. Appreciate that, man.
But the teachers that impacted me are as follows. Dr. Edgar Toppin. He was my master's study advisor. But not only that, but he's the one that instilled Black history in me, because that's where I took a Black history course for the first time under him. And it's through his work, Before the Mayflower by Lerone Bennett, who's also a great member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Before the Mayflower is the first Black history book that I ever read from cover to cover. So Dr. Edgar Toppin. Then there's Miss B.J. Carson. She was my psychology teacher. It was because of her, that the vintages, if you will, in terms of what she was pointing out, allowed me to construct my mind around understanding this thing about white power, even though she didn't necessarily discuss it that way, but that's what I was able to do in my mind, understand what was going on. Dr. Renee Hill, she was my philosophy teacher at the time. When she came, when I was there, was her first year teaching, and I was her first class in a philosophy class. Dr. Wallace McMichael, he was my state and local government teacher. Like, his instruction was phenomenal. There was no word bank on his test. He gave you, multiple choice, fill in the blank, essays, and you had to know that information. And Dr. McMichael was tight. Professor Gary Baker, he was my U.S. government teacher, international relations instructor, and he was grounded in the Black Panther Party. He would talk to us for days about Black power. I didn't necessarily understand it all then, because I was young. I was 18, but being able to go backwards in my mind on that. And then lastly, attorney Valerie Jones. Now, she's most important because she was a graduate of Virginia State.
Okay.
And she was also initiated through the Alpha Eta chapter, which is Delta Sigma Theta on my campus. But she's important because she translated to me the lineage of the school in that regard, because she was a graduate and she was the attorney for the school at the time. But she was also my my mentor, because I was a part of a federal program called the TRIO program for first generation college students. That is really a big deal on many Black college campuses, which provides services for first generation college students, and particularly of a depressed economic background. I don't come from a wealthy Black family or a strong middle class, Black family. So my family continues to be, paycheck to paycheck. So that meant that, I'm a part of what was then understood as an at-risk population. And I was assigned to her as a student to, watch over. And she was responsible for helping to get extra dollars put on my books, if you will, when I was in school, in terms of extra money to keep me in school. So
Wow.
that's my tribe or nucleus of people that I always recognize in terms of the faculty and in my school.
Wow, that's awesome,
Man,
man.
that's
That's
dope.
dope. That's dope to have that background, to have professors that you can remember and respect enough to make sure you shout out their name. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I love that.
That's dope.
So now we graduated. So now you're in college. We've graduated, masters. Just defended your
Dissertation.
dissertation in education. Tell us, what exactly do you do?
So after I graduated with my degrees in '98, I taught in Virginia's public schools and higher education for over a decade. So I was in higher education, I was in, K through 12 classrooms. And so that's really what I do. And so what I plan to do is get back into, higher education. So in the meantime, I established two important projects.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's hear about those.
So in 2014, I established a what I know to be at this present time the first social media magazine established by an alum, but it's not controlled by the university. And everything about the magazine is anchored in the social political elements of Virginia State. And the name of the magazine is called hashtag One State 1882. It is on Facebook, and it's anchored in what was going on at the time at the school, which shocked me. Now, although I'm aware of various turbulent periods, let's just say, in VSU's history, to include the school was delayed in its opening because the funder party, which was a third party here in the state, didn't want to allocate funds to public schools, back then known as normal schools. They didn't want to allocate funds for that. We had just come out of the Civil War. They wanted to pay down the debt. But it was a readjuster party under the leadership of my founder, Alfred William Harris, who pushed for the establishment of Virginia State and Central State Hospital, which are two all Black spaces. And so there are other episodes where the school was unsteady. But to kind of speed up from 1882 to the present, I was shocked that transparency was becoming a thing at the time under the 13th president, Dr. Keith Miller, and the students protested.
Hmm.
And ultimately, that resulted in Dr. Keith Miller's resignation from the school. He's not the first president to resign from Virginia State. In fact, the very first president to do that is the very first person to ever become president and title, which was John Mercer Langston, which is the great grandfather of Langston Hughes, who will be the last Republican representative from the state of Virginia in the early 1900s. And so I was shocked by that. I said, I want to do something to bring, all generations of Virginia State together. So the magazine endeavors to tell stories of what alum are doing in their field of human endeavor, and I share the social and political musings about Virginia State. So that was 2014. And then the most recent project that I'm working on is the Heights Community Project, which is anchored in the social political history of Black people here in my city. And we had a school for Black people called Bruton Heights School, which existed from 1940 and it closed in 1989.
Mm.
So the goal is to kind of reconnect Black people to the Black radical politics that Black people formerly espoused, but far too many Black people today are radicalized by a neoliberal politics, rather they are conscious of it or not. So I want to, move us away and break us away from the neoliberal politic and towards, focusing on what we need to do with inside of our diaspora. And that's pretty much the gist of what I'm doing there.
Wow,
Man, that's great.
that's great knowledge, man.
So one of the reasons why Hughes and I started this podcast is something similar. We want to highlight successful stories of people that are currently at HBCUs, graduates of HBCUs, or affiliated with an HBCU, because we really want to increase enrollment, engagement, and endowment. That's why we want to do this. And like you were saying earlier, you give praises due, you shout out when you're supposed to shout out, and that's what this is for.
Yeah.
Now, some of the times you have parents who make decisions about where their kids supposed to go to school, and their child might want to go to a HBCU, or their child doesn't even know about a HBCU like you back in the day. For those parents listening, for those students listening, what about the HBCU experience should either give them the audacity to heavily consider an HBCU, or just simply make the decision and go?
This is going to be a great answer. I already know it.
So the first thing I would say is, I like the fact that you use, audacity, especially, within the framework of, white supremacy capitalism, because, the expected outcome of, living in this global system called white supremacy. We have to understand white supremacy is a global system, and so that means the entire globe is the prison, for white supremacy and those that practice white supremacy. So that means you have to have an audacity as a Black person to actually want to resist that and be anti-colonial and actually want to be African. That in and of itself, is a level of power that a lot of us just don't have, because it's just so easy to capitulate, right? Because everybody else is doing it, because it's just popular to be anti-Black, and that's just the reality of it all. And I maintain that everybody is subject and is practicing anti-Blackness, and especially anti-Black misandry, what has to do with being anti-Black male. Okay, so that's an issue in and of itself. The first thing I would say is this: I read data all the time. Black people do not have the bread. We don't have it. So I realize there's always going to be individuals who are going to want to pop up and say and try to rebut me, but no. We don't have the money like that. There's always going to be some pockets that do. For those that do, that's cool. I'm talking to the average Black person. So that's one. Two, I would always encourage a Black person to attend the school where they will not incur a large debt.
Mm-hmm.
That should be first. Economics has to be first. So if if a school in your state, if it's not Virginia State, even though, by the way, it's just been said that Virginia State is number one on the least expensive school in the Commonwealth. So, if you're looking for a school, that you can afford, and it's ranked number one as the least, most affordable in the state, that's Virginia State University. But first, economics. But lastly, you should attend an HBCU for the following reasons. Yes, HBCUs has its challenges, but HBCUs are made for Black people, fostered and sustained by Black people. So that should, encourage people to come. The next reason why a person should come to a HBCU is because if you're a type of person that's willing to say, you know what, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and I'm going to come to any said HBCU in the state, rather it's Hampton, Norfolk State, Virginia Union, Virginia University at Lynchburg, or Virginia State, you're saying to yourself, I want to roll up my sleeves and help this school to be a better school.
Mm.
And yes, I recognize that I'm going to get pushback. And no, everybody at the school ain't radical. But you want to do what you can to bring everybody together for the common good of making your alma mater stable. And then the last reason I would say is this. You should want to come to a HBCU because you want to garner and drink heavily from the fountain of knowledge, which Alfred W. Harris talked about at my school. Virginia State is a fountain of knowledge there to quench anybody's thirst for the rest of their lives. But not only that, but you take that knowledge and you share it in partnership, not in domination, but in partnership with poor Black people. So now we're talking about redistribution of resources and materials back to poor Black people to raise their sights up higher than what they recognize. And that's something that Elder Wassa Diggs, by the way, understood in Bloomington, Indiana. And I realize we're talking about Black college, but he was also a Black leader within the prong of Black students attending schools, which we don't talk enough about what Black student organizations was doing within the moment of Jim Crow civil rights. Okay, so just to shout out one, I have a little bias, but Kappa Alpha Psi was definitely out front working hard in Bloomington, Indiana to raise the sights of not only the meager Black population of students that was attending Indiana, which was free to attend at the time to students. So they didn't have college tuition to pay at the time. But it was a small, meager population of Blacks attending. All the Black males that was attending was founders of the fraternity. That was it. And then, of course, they focused on the Bloomington Black population. So that's the kind of thing that we need to understand, that our job as Black people coming out of Black institutions is to take that knowledge, partner with poor Black people, and advocate for them. And that is what Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, who was the first principal of Tuskegee, taught us, to my founder, Alfred W. Harris, taught us. And that's our responsibility as Black people.
Wow. I knew that was going to be a great answer. So, man, this has been awesome, man. It's been a blessing to have you on the show, man. It's been amazing, man. Great knowledge. Where can everybody find you, your organization? Where can people find more about this?
So first, thank you so much. I do want to recognize some other things too. I have their wares. I think it's important because again, it's about lineage and it connects with your podcast, which in terms of what Black people are producing. And that is, one is I focused on your chapter brother first, and Mark Anthony Tynes is the founder of We Need More Thinkers. I don't have his shirt on today, but I have his shirt, okay? And he's pushing, Black people to think. He's a graduate of
That's right. That's right.
Then I have on, which you can't really see it, but Real VSU Stories, which is a storytelling channel by Jalon Holmes, who also attended Virginia State University. So I just put that out there to let people know that Black people from HBCUs are producing things for Black people to consume. Now that brings me to answering your question, which is the Heights Community Project can be found on Facebook. As said, the Heights Community Project is open to all Black people across the diaspora. No matter what your political or religious leaning is. But the theory that I operate under is the Black radical tradition. So the goal is that we have to, do for ourselves and at the same time push against the white power structure, at the same time develop our African consciousness. I'm on Facebook, Sharreiff De'Jonette. I'm on Instagram, Sharreiff De'Jonette, and I'm on Twitter, Sharreiff underscore as well. So I feel as though I'm very accessible. I love to respond to people. So, if people DM me questions about the Black African diaspora or politics, I'm right there with you. If anybody has challenges in their undergraduate journey, if you're at HBCU or what have you, and you're Black, even if you're not at HBCU, if you're at a TWI, PWI, because Black people are doing things over there as well, knocking down doors. This inbox may not help you. And definitely, if you are a Black person that's trying to achieve his or her doctorate, by all means, inbox me and I'll do what I can to assist you to achieve. So that's what I'm all about, trying to inspire people in the public interest.
Hey, that's
Great.
man. We greatly appreciate you coming on, and we look forward to having you back. Spit more knowledge on us.
Yeah. Great
Thank you so
plug
much.
for my chapter brother too. Great
Yeah.
brother.
Absolutely. I'm very proud of the work that he's doing, and he was actually, again, it's about lineage. If you go back to, or if you recall, a theme that I'm pushing, which is lineage, and so I'm always all about recognizing my tribe and citing people that's helped me. And Mark has been instrumental in helping me into understanding some things about the nonprofit game, because he's been doing it longer than I have. So he's one of the sentinel trees, if I can borrow a lyric from my hymn of Virginia State University, has helped me to push along. So I have to cite him. So that's what that's about.
Dope, man.
Man, we greatly appreciate you coming on. We'll let you know when this episode is coming out. That way you can tell your tribe, your
Yeah.
Yes, VSU tribe and others.
There you go, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you, gentlemen, for allowing me to, be on your podcast. I'm very thankful and honored to be on the podcast. And
It was an
because I
honor
think
having
it's
you,
very
man.
important. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Man, bro, when I say dude, let me not even call him dude.
Yeah.
Brother, legendary.
Doctor.
He went from dude to doctor.
Dr. De'Jonette.
Nah, I mean that's dope, man. That's dope. It was a really great interview. This is our part of our episode, as you know, that we call Lesson of the Day, where Hughes and I take something from the interview as our lesson of the day, as if we were in school, because we definitely got schooled on this one. Now, if you have a lesson of the day, hit us up at Black2School, at Black2School, on podcasts, on all social media. Make sure you hit us up on your favorite platform, or email us blacktoschoolpodcast@gmail. Let us know what your lesson of the days are, and we'll put it back out there as well. Hughes, what you get from them, Hughes?
For me, it was the word is enlightening, and the word is enlightening because of the fact that I don't know if you really know, but Williamsburg is not a lot of us, and he even mentioned that in the
I
interview.
used to go to the outlets.
Yeah, he mentioned, I think it was like 20 something of African Americans in high school. So for him to even get to Virginia Union and get to Virginia State, especially in that area, for me, it was enlightening in the fact that he got to really get enriched in the African American, and I got to put the emphasis on African American culture and the fabric, because I don't think culture would be appropriate for this. I think you got to really go into the fabric, because he makes me want to go back to the motherland after that interview, man.
You want to read some.
So man, and then him just going down the list as far as the detail, as far as the lineage from the professors, and we talk about that all the time, as far as the professors that we had that were actually in the history, you know, for him to talk about the attorney, that was the attorney for the school, the presidents, and then now moving on to the projects that he's doing. Man, this guy's amazing, man, and I'm looking forward to see what he has in the future, man. This deep, man. But what'd you get, man?
So we need to hook him up with what's my man name that do the HBCU tour?
Jolie Hensley.
He need to hook up with Jolie Hensley, bro.
Yeah.
You need to hook up with him.
Yeah.
Let me see. My lesson of the day is mentorship, giving back. And it's something that we talked about the other day. If every mentor says, for the most part, the way you repay me is you do it for somebody else, give back. Everything that he talked about was about giving back. Everything that he talked about was about bringing up someone else.
He even did that during the interview.
Everything. And so if we did more of that, if we highlighted each other more, if we gave back more, I wonder how much further could we be individually and as people. So yeah, that was my lesson of the day, man.
Man, it was a great one. Look, we want you guys to know that we are doing this to increase engagement, enrollment, and endowment. Make sure that you guys are letting your friends know. Please make sure that you are sending us any guests that you know that should be on this show, that we should be highlighting their stories. So make sure you guys are emailing us at black2schoolpodcast@gmail.com. And you can also find us on any platform, IG or Facebook at black2schoolpodcast. So make sure you guys are letting us know, and make sure that you guys are liking, subscribing, and then you guys are sharing and letting your friends know about this.
Man, thank y'all for coming through. Make sure y'all check out what we got going on next week.
Peace.
You know, I never really thought about going to college, you know what I mean? Granted, Norfolk State was the HBCU in the city. So, like, my mom would always take us to, like, the Norfolk State football games on Saturdays. And I love, like, watching the band and stuff like that. And I think because of Norfolk State and, like, the Spartan Legion marching band, that really was, like, my outlet from being in the streets, you know, because I was just so fascinated by the music, by the dance, and by the hard work, you know, like standing in Berkeley on the south side of Norfolk and still hearing the band practice and rehearsal, you know, every night, you know. So those are some of the things that really kind of like kept me grounded from being in the streets, you know.